Okay, and just you can just go back and forth.
Okay, sounds good. All right, roll in and anytime.
All right, so tell me about what you were just talking about.
Yeah, how am I going to say this?
Ask you a question. What were we talking about?
How is tinnitus treatment different than just hearing aids? Or do you just put hearing aids on everyone? Something like that.
Yeah, are you just putting hearing aids on everyone?
No. So tinnitus treatment requires sound therapy to get missing input.
I need to say.
Yeah.
We don't just put hearing aids on.
We don't.
So
Okay.
What is the question I should ask you that we need you to rephrase? So what are people asking?
People over the phone will say, "Are you just putting on hearing aids for everyone that has tinnitus?"
Okay, so I have tinnitus. Are you just going to put a hearing aid on me?
Okay, so the answer to that question would be, not everyone with tinnitus can benefit from a hearing aid, a traditional amplification system, because not everyone with tinnitus has significant hearing loss. But we use sound therapy in tinnitus retraining to be able to provide the brain the missing input. And so a lot of the devices that we use for sound therapy look like a hearing aid, even though they don't have the amplification component. So that's...
So when you were telling me over there,
Yeah.
sounded really good.
Okay.
Now
I'm like blah, blah, blah.
I feel like we're not a Colorado company.
Okay, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just tell me about the issue.
Okay.
Put that down.
Yeah. It's distracting. All right. Do you want me to start from the top, kind of? All right.
Just don't worry about any of it.
Okay.
Okay. So tell me about what you were telling me about. People calling want to know about hearing aids and tinnitus. Is it just for tinnitus? Is the only... You're just slapping hearing aids at people with tinnitus?
Right. So not everyone with tinnitus can benefit from amplification. So each person, we have to take a unique approach to figure out what's the best way to deliver sound therapy back to their brain. Not all sound therapy is going to look the same, although most people today want a wireless device, and all of our wireless sound therapy can look like a hearing aid. So that's where the confusion lies. We're not just putting amplification on all people because not all people have significant hearing loss associated with their tinnitus.
So is it actually a different device, or is a hearing aid, it just isn't being used for amplification?
Right. So all of our sound therapy tools today currently come from hearing aid manufacturers. So that's why they look identical to a hearing aid in most cases. Occasionally we might use something that looks totally different, more like an MP3 player with earbuds. But so many people don't want that corded option because we're so active. And that's why the wireless option is much more popular.
This catch light's bugging me.
The catch light?
Yeah, because it's in the left eye, but not the right.
Oh, yeah. No, that looks good now.
Yeah, okay. All right. So, but I want to understand this more.
Yeah.
So, are they hearing aids?
So a sound therapy device, the combination instruments that we are using for tinnitus therapy, can be used as amplification with the microphones and amplifier turned on, or as non-hearing aids with the microphones and amplifier turned off. So it just depends on how we set them up, and it's case by case determined.
Okay. And this just all is coming back to people's stigma with hearing aids.
Yes, exactly.
Tell me more about that. What is this about?
So a lot of people have a hard time with the concept of putting anything over or on top of their ear because they associate that with a hearing aid that maybe their grandfather wore or somebody who they see as much older than them. And so what's hard sometimes is for people to realize, A, nobody's going to notice you have these things on because they're so small, and B, that it can make such a huge difference in your quality of life. Who cares anyway what it looks like? So that's kind of the struggle sometimes we deal with.
Isn't that funny? So it's the fact that it goes up over the ear and it sits behind. Like, what if it was just like something that was sitting like in a Bluetooth headset?
Right. So if something were sitting just in the ear, people think that that's I don't know, better somehow. But the problem is if you plug an ear, especially for someone with tinnitus, their tinnitus can get louder because now you're keeping all of that sound in and you're not allowing natural airflow around the sound therapy device. So all the units we use today keep the ear partially open so that we don't run the risk of increasing the problem, which is the tinnitus in the first place.
And the technology has to sit somewhere. So it sits.
Technology has to sit somewhere, so it sits on a tiny little processor on the top of the ear.
Can you show us?
Yes. So this is an example of how small it can be. So when you're wearing, this is exactly what I wear for my tinnitus, and when I'm wearing it, I don't feel it. It weighs less than an ounce. You don't see it. It disappears. And the wire here is what's delivering the sound therapy into my ear. We customize the sound therapy with programming it using the computer after we figure out the tinnitus pitch and loudness match in the diagnostic testing. All that information is then imported into this tiny little chip on the back of my ear. And by leaving that ear canal open, I hear naturally, normally. I don't feel this. I barely even know it's there. And then the sound therapy is just gentle, playing in the background, very low level, calming, soothing. So I can go about my day and I don't even half the time recognize I'm wearing it.
And it looks nothing like those old beige, clunky.
Right, the big old technology that filled the ear, was heavy. We called it the occlusion effect because it would make you feel plugged up, like you were talking through a microphone all the time. You were getting reverberation and echo when you block the ear canal, just like when you put earplugs in. You know, you put those foamy earplugs in and you feel like, am I shouting? I can't regulate my volume. This is nothing like that, but that's what a lot of people think they're gonna have to experience, and they think, well, that's worse than what I'm dealing with my tinnitus, so it discourages them to even come in and see what we have to offer.
This is such a mind game.
It is. There's so much psychology involved in dealing with tinnitus and trying to just overcome some of these objections that are no longer valid, but until we can be face to face with someone and show them, no, this is what we're talking about, there's a lot of confusion, I think, out there.
Yeah. And what's the harm in coming in and just talking?
Right. We can't help someone who doesn't want our help, so we'd rather just get people the right information so they know if maybe I don't want to do this now, but if my situation gets worse, at least I know what I can do for myself in the future.
Yeah, and come experience this, but what if not?
Yeah, a lot of people, when we put the sound therapy in both ears and they listen to it for a few minutes, they realize right away what a big difference it can make for them. It's calming, it's soothing. We've seen people cry just from putting them in because they get some immediate benefit, some immediate relief and distraction away from their tinnitus. And so, you know, that's why it's so important to test it out and see, can you benefit? Like we always say, 80% of people can, so why not see if you're part of that number that can actually benefit. Yeah.
Awesome. That's good. I was going to ask you, so I started sleeping with those foamy earplugs. I really like it. Is that bad?
It's not. It's sleeping with foamy earplugs isn't bad as long as you don't have tinnitus. If you have tinnitus, it tends to amplify the problem by plugging your ears. So
I'm wondering if I was pushing earwax in or something.
A lot of people do accidentally push earwax in with a foam earplug, but usually you start to realize it because when you take it out, you see some on it and you go, I probably have some wax in my ear.
I've never done that before, and I was like, oh my God, this is a beautiful way to sleep.
Yeah. So quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can sleep with earplugs in and are a light sleeper,
you ever try that?
I can help.
No, my wife does.
You should take one of those. It's really nice.
I can't stand anything in my ear.
I hear
that long.
But I
hear myself breathe.
I hear,
right, it internalizes everything.
I hear what could eventually be some tinnitus, though.
Yeah.
Like I hear the sound of my brain.
Exactly. Your nervous system. Yeah, your brain.
It doesn't. It's not irritating. It's not loud.
Right.
It's,
right.
Right. But I'm like, okay, I can imagine what that must be like if it was like 10 times louder.
Right. Or insert into there like a 4K notch.
Yeah.
Not fun.
Are there any other questions that you're getting from people right now? Well, tell me about what's new since we last talked in this way.
Oh, that's right. So some new advancements in research for tinnitus really are kind of looking at transcranial magnetic stimulation to try to rewire the brain externally with transcranial magnets. It's working for depression, so it's been FDA approved to help people that suffer from depression, but there really hasn't been enough clinical trials with tinnitus. There's definitely some potential risks there with side effects of possible memory loss, which would not be good. So we're not really applying that yet to tinnitus. It'll be interesting to see if they can prove benefit without harm there. A lot of interesting research is also going into stem cell stem cells inserted or somehow put into the inner ear to restore the cochlear hair cells that have been damaged in the first place. Most people say if we had an influx of money into this research, it could be something that we'd see in the next 5 years develop, but most people are thinking it's probably going to be 10 to 20 years before stem cells are actually a viable option for us. But that would be the cure. That would be the best thing ever, because with sound therapy, you could see these hair cells regenerate, and then we'd be able to say, okay, 12 months later, you are cured of this problem. So that would be a great day. I hope I see it in my career, in my lifetime.
Awesome.
What else?
Real quick before we change subjects. Yes, thank you. So I just have a keep rolling, but offline question.
Yeah.
What if that came out? Would your practice close?
No, because you can't
would you
just
be the one to do it?
Yeah. So hopefully we would be the ones to help with the stem cell placement. If we couldn't be the ones to put it through, because we're talking possibly through the eardrum and into the inner ear, you'd still need sound stimulation, much like you do with a cochlear implant, to be able to revive those hair cells. So an ENT might do the stem cell infusion, depends on how many years out we're talking, because audiology, we are trying to get more into some medical management areas of tinnitus and hearing in general, but you still need to deliver sound to revive and revitalize those hair cells to get them to come alive again.
Are you actually participating in this research?
There really aren't any. Most of the clinical trials and studies are happening at Stanford and big research facilities. I don't think even University of Colorado.
Can you come up with this cure so you can patent?
Right, I would love to.
Can you raise stem cells?
Yeah, can I get some of your stem cells? We'll use you as our guinea pig, Tom.
Maybe we should talk some more about the cognitive decline dementia stuff.
Oh yeah.
About that?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Why? How is this? How is hearing so linked to that?
So.
Battery died. Oh, is that up?
Yes. This is good shit.
Perfect. Great.
Okay.
All right, rolling again.
Okay, so let's talk about brain and hearing.
So we finally have some longitudinal studies that happened from patients that started at 55 and followed them all the way for 20 years plus, I think 25 years. So from 55 to age 80, they followed a lot of different changes in health. One of them was untreated hearing loss and what happens over that 25-year period. And so it took a long time to collect all that data, clearly, but now we finally see that the participants in that study that had untreated hearing loss were 5 times more likely to fail cognitive tests or do much poorer than their normal hearing age-matched peers. And so this is really what we have seen. We've known auditory deprivation. So if you deprive the brain of sound, it forgets how to decode speech signals. It can't tell the difference anymore between speech and teach or cat and fat if you've deprived the brain of that important input for years and years and years. So these auditory filters in the brain, we know, get broader, but this is the first time in decades that we've ever been able to show with proof that, hey, look, there's definitely a link here. And then if you have other health issues on top of this, so let's say you're diabetic or have heart disease or another type of degenerative nerve loss like MS, you're even going to accelerate the hearing loss faster because of these other health issues. So there's definitely more and more links that we're seeing in research between other health issues and hearing loss, and the importance of treating hearing loss early on so that we don't end up with problems with memory, problems with word recognition abilities, because we can't get that back. So if we don't do something now, we're not going to be able to get it back 10, 15, 20 years later.
That's good. That's really good. Clear statement. Anything else about that?
Another interesting study that just came out shows that with normal hearing, if we're at a restaurant or we're at a bar and it's really loud, there's a lot of background noise, with normal hearing, you have to have at least 50% understanding of speech in order to participate in the conversation. With hearing loss, most people are going to perform lower than 50%. So let's say you only get 30% of the conversation because of hearing loss. Well, we now have studies that show the brain just gives up. It just says, I can't do this, so I'm going to leave. Because why sit here and pretend like I'm understanding things when I'm really not catching, 70% of the conversation. So with new hearing technology, we're trying to restore that gap and take them from the less than 50% understanding and noise and to get them at least to the same level as normal hearing. So we have to have at least 50% audibility of sound in order to participate in background noise. And we're able to do that now. So it's really great to see more and more patients benefit, because that's the number one complaint of patients with hearing loss is, I hear fine when I want to quiet. I just can't hear well when I'm with my family out to dinner. So the new technology, it has to be fast. We have to be on a 2.4 gigahertz platform for these hearing devices, or better. I think 2.4 is all we have at the moment, but a generation before, so even 2 years ago, a lot of the hearing technology was only 900 megahertz, which is a lot slower. And if it's not fast enough, it can't keep up with all the noise and it can't get us to that 50% mark.
Is that the processor that's talking about? Okay. This is cool. I was going to ask, so when you get into with devices and get into 50%, does it improve from there with time, or does it?
For some people, it definitely can improve from there, but with hearing technology, the issue is we're never going to be able to necessarily do better than normal hearing, right? So we can't be, like supersonic hearing. We probably wouldn't want that, because then you'd hear everything too loud. But we're trying to at least get us back to how people with normal hearing perform. And then in a really loud place, we're all using visual cues, context. You got to look at the person speaking to you to really fill in some of the gaps. But if you can at least catch half of what's said, you're going to be able to figure out the rest.
And on the other side, with nothing, it's just going to go to the floor.
Right. If you have less than 50% understanding, you just feel like it's so much work, it's so much effort, it's exhausting. So the nervous system kind of just kicks in and says, I'm going to flee. I want out of here because I don't like this. It's not comfortable for me. That's what a lot of people do.
Yeah. And what kind of age range are we talking about?
So for sure, we know the older we get, the harder it is for processing in the brain to keep up. So the average age of some of these high frequency hearing losses we're seeing is coming down to as young as 57. When I started in this field 20 years ago, the average age was 75. So in just 2 decades, that's come down considerably. So
why do you think that is?
The number one reason I think we're seeing hearing loss at younger and younger ages is noise exposure. Too many people have Bluetooth, cell phones, earbuds constantly in their ears, and they're listening to things at too loud of a level for too long of a period of time. Concerts and, musicians and things like that are going to show hearing loss because of the loud nature of what they do or where they are. But even day to day, people in their cars listening to the radio way too loud, it's just becoming more and more of a problem.
Yeah, everyone's got like a really, really loud speaker near their ear almost the whole day.
Yeah, right? And what we really worry about is, kids these days that are wearing an earbud 24/7, going to sleep with an earbud in, going to school with earbuds in. They never are giving their brain a break from auditory input. We don't even know what that's going to look like, 10 years from now.
Do you ever encourage people to put their kids' devices on the audio limit, where you can limit how loud it gets?
Yeah, I don't know if it was because of litigation or what, but iPhone, Apple products now do have an output limiter to the sound level. So even if you have it at full volume, you're not going to be able to exceed, a safety level. And you can buy for kids earphones that are specifically for, the maximum level that we think is okay for kids. So there are headphones established too that do that. But it's hard to regulate everything. There's so many things out there that can be excessively loud.
And I'm sure it's very subjective, but how loud do you think that, what you think is the acceptable volume, max volume is compared to where people are actually listening? Is it half?
That's a good question. See, everyone's perception of volume can vary so much because, for instance, like for myself, because I have some tinnitus in my left ear that comes and goes depending on my triggers. For instance, last night at a outdoor concert in the park, a cappella group still wore my filtered earplugs, and I was probably the only one around wearing earplugs, but I know that if I sit through that, I'm going to leave and my ears are going to be ringing louder than they were prior. So I'm more sensitive, and most people with hearing loss are more sensitive to sudden changes in loudness. So some of our patients do not like to go to movies, do not ever go to concerts anymore, do not like to go to the opera or to a production because it hurts. It's painful to their ears. So a damaged ear is a more sensitive ear. So it's interesting to talk about, this dynamic range of volume and comfort, because someone with damage is definitely not going to like loud sounds. Someone who doesn't have tinnitus or damage yet can probably tolerate more on that volume scale, but then eventually they're going to cause damage if they keep listening to it really loud.
So what would you say to somebody like on the website here, like turn your volume down how much?
So if you're listening to music or any audio signals through earbuds, whether they're Bluetooth or corded, if I can hear the audio sitting next to you, it's too loud. And so many people, I've been on an airplane before where the person sitting next to me, I could hear the lyrics of their music, and I'm thinking, I need to give you my card because you're going to be causing permanent damage. If I can hear your audio sitting next to you on an airplane or anywhere, it's damaging. That's a good gauge.
Yeah. So if I can hear it sitting next to you on an airplane, that's got to be real damn loud.
Right.
If I can hear it sitting next to you in a quiet room, that's different, right?
Right.
So, but that's a good. I like that. That's
yeah. If you can hear your kid's music, your friend's music, whoever's music sitting next to them, tell them to turn it down because it's going to damage their hearing. And sometimes people look at you like it's not that loud, but it is.
Cool. This is good stuff. Anything else you would think of right now?
What other things are people asking us? I think too.
So tell us about these.
So these little purple guys are called filtered earplugs, and in the center of this plug is a attenuator that drops the dB level down. I have a 16 dB filter in there right now, so if I'm at a concert and they're playing at 100 dB, it's going to knock me down to a safe level, because we know really the Occupational Safety and Health Administration uses 90 decibels and above as a cutoff for safe sound. The National Institute for Safety and Health uses 85 as the 85 decibels is the cutoff for safe. So I kind of prefer to use that number for myself. But by wearing these, I just insert them into my ear just like you would an earplug. But because they're custom made, they fit just perfectly into my ear. No one really sees them.
Let's do the other side.
The cord on the bottom is what helps me remove the earplug. But see, I'm kind of just making sure I have it nice and sealed into my ear canals, and then they're comfortable to wear. But it drops down the volume, like I was saying last night, of the concert, so that I can still hear the full fidelity of sound. It doesn't compromise the sound quality at all, but it just attenuates it down so that I feel safe. And for a lot of people, that's the name of the game. You got to feel safe, or if you don't, you want to leave. You want to get up and flee, get out of there. So these are great for concert goers, musicians, people that work around a lot of noise, people that are just sensitive to loud sounds. I have them in my purse all the time. Sometimes I have to wear them at the movie theaters, like Star Wars or something really loud. And it helps just kind of make things comfortable.
That's so cool. So, and it doesn't, because I was going to say like it doesn't compromise any frequencies.
Nope, does not compromise any frequencies. It just attenuates it down to a safe level. But by being a filter, I can still hear everything because I have an opening on the other side that allows that sound wave to travel to the eardrum.
How does it do that? Like, what's the filter?
So the filter pops in and out of the center of the device. There's a few different manufacturers of the filters, but you just can pop in and out different attenuator levels. So they come in like 25 for maybe a drummer or someone who's really a trombone player, someone who has really loud input would want a higher reduction level. So they come in like 25, 20, 16, and 9 are the levels of attenuation. And so people can get multiple filters and pop them in and out on their own. It comes with a little tool to kind of just get underneath it and pop out the filter and then pop in a different one if they need more or less attenuation of sound. So I love my filtered earplugs because they're comfortable, they fit my ears. They're not like foam earplugs that you roll them and then they're popping out and you don't get a good seal and they're not comfortable. And so we use a company that's local here in Colorado that makes these. And so I take an impression of the ear, send it to Westone in Colorado Springs. They build the mold, send it back to us, and then we check the fit and make sure everything's good.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So do you, could you get these for completely like non-filtered, like if you wanted just to...
We do the full range,
like,
yep.
So just where it plugs the hole essentially?
Yep, you can do, I have some examples of them. Either you can do a snore mold for couples where one person snores and the other one wants to have a mold that they wear at night, but it's a little bit even softer material to make it easier to sleep with. We have, the full shell type of molds for hunters and for shooting and that kind of thing to attenuate even more sound out. So Westone really has a huge array of different custom in the ear earplugs and various types of devices that can help protect the hearing so that we don't end up with some of these problems later on.
Cool.
Yeah. They're
Awesome.
very cool. And I had to get purple.
Yeah, I love the purple.
Right.
Cool. Anything else?
What else can I think of?
It really got dark out there. Wow.
Yeah, looks like it's gonna.
So you can just talk, and we'll be looking at the. It'll be on the screen, like next to you. So you you can still look at me and talk to me and look at your screen. You don't need to do this.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So tell us what you're looking at.
Okay. What's great about new technology today with hearing technology is that most of it is Bluetooth compatible, meaning we can adjust the sound at our ears through our phone. Apple does a great job of working with all the hearing aid manufacturers for this direct Bluetooth connection. Android does in some contexts, just not as elaborate as Apple products.
Cool. Well, show us what the one you have.
So the one I have now, basically what we're doing is allowing patients to apply different setting filters to make it sound better. So for instance, they can touch on the app a noise filter setting to help reduce background noise in restaurants.
So we're going to be seeing exactly what you're seeing. So
okay.
Speak as if I am seeing what you're seeing right now.
Okay. Yep. So by pressing the noise filter button, we're able to help reduce background noise, which is our primary complaint in groups and noisy places. So that's a great feature. We can also use the app to access multiple programs. So I just swiped over in the app and we have this restaurant mode. And in the restaurant mode, we have even more help with noise filtering is one option, or focusing on speech of the person right directly in front of us. Or maybe in some instances we want to hear everyone in the restaurant so that we know what's going on all around us. So the app is really user-friendly and easy to do. No one knows what you're doing. They think you're checking a text message or an email. They have no idea you're actually adjusting your hearing devices, improving your ability to converse and communicate and participate in the group conversation. And then once we get into the program and find a good setting, we can say, you know what, I just wanted a little lower in volume in both ears or a little bit higher in volume in both ears. So we really have this finite control over the way we hear, which is so important because no two people process sound the same way. And so it's really hard as audiologists to necessarily get everything fine-tuned just right with this technology today because we need the input of our patients.
And then, so do these work like a Bluetooth headset too, like?
Yes. So then if a phone call comes in and we have the Bluetooth connection on with the hearing devices, you'll hear the caller in both ears, so you have a true stereo sound when someone calls in, which is great. Gives you much better audio quality. You can stream Pandora, you can stream audiobooks, whatever you want, and there's none of this having to take one device out to replace it with another. You are basically converting the hearing technology into a Bluetooth headset.
Cool.
Yeah.
And if you, like, it's okay if you don't want this to be in a video anywhere, but like if you were on the phone like 8 hours a day, would that battery still last a week?
If you're streaming longer, your battery's going to last less than a week for sure. Probably like 5 days.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you're a big streaming person, you're probably only going to get 5 days out of a battery currently.
Pretty good.
But still, for what you're doing.
A Bluetooth headset is dead like in a day.
Right, exactly.
With a giant rechargeable battery in it.
Exactly. So.
Cool. Do you want to show any other apps?
Yeah. So another app that is really handy is this new one from another manufacturer called WIDEX, and what they're doing is helping us figure out what a person's preference is in kind of a forced choice, which is better, A or B. Kind of like when you go to the eye doctor and they say which is clearer, 1 or 2. Same applies here. So in the app, when we're in a complex listening environment like a restaurant, we go to this Sound Sense Learn function, and it's going to ask us which sounds better, A or B. And by telling through the app which sounds better, A or B, it's really the first time we have a system that is intelligent enough to learn what our preferences are. So it's really kind of going towards that concept of artificial intelligence in hearing technology for the first time, which is really great because then this information is stored on the chip, and when a patient comes in and sees me, I can download it and say, oh, no wonder you weren't hearing well in that environment. You like it a lot louder than I would expect you to, or you like it a lot lower, or a lot different pitch composition. And so the technology is really advancing quickly to help us understand people's preferences better.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I don't think I need hearing aids, but I want them.
Right. Yeah, I like wearing them just for
I'm on the
fun.
phone like all day now, so I would love to.
Hands-free, small, easy to use, and everyone can benefit from a little bit of a boost in high frequencies when there's background noise because it makes speech clearer.
How does it know how to do, make just the person next to you louder versus the person farther away from you or something?
Right. So sometimes that's tricky because the cocktail party effect, as we call it, is usually lots of people talking. And background noise that a hearing device can really work with easier is if it's steady state noise like traffic or fans or something that's identifiable that they can cancel out, right? But when it's lots of people talking, the main way it can help is by taking close in. So it's about distance and intensity. So the closer the person is to you, usually that's going to be the more intense speech. So trying to capture that particular voice and boost it up. But what's cool in the app that you just reminded me of on this one, they have something called directional focus. So when we go to directional focus, I can say the person on my right, I pick the right microphones and turn that side up only. So now I'm hearing the person on my right louder than the person on my left.
Are the microphones directional too? So if you
they
turn
are
your
directional.
Head, so if you're, does it focus on who you're looking at?
It focuses on where those microphones are positioned or pointed, absolutely. So we have 2 on each side of the head. So we have 4 directional microphones, and we can basically tell it through the algorithm, do we want it to be omnidirectional? Do we want all 4 of those active? Do we want them to be directional? Do we want them to be adaptive directional based on the loudness level of the environment? I mean, it's pretty cool what you can do with these microphones. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It is pretty awesome.
Anything else cool?
What else is cool? Some of the features people like that I think are neat is they have the ability through the app to locate, like, let's say you accidentally took the hearing aids out and left them on a table in a restaurant. Because of location services, you can go through the app and say, where are my hearing aids? And so you're less likely to be able to lose them because it's tied to that location services in your phone. So you can find them if you potentially left them somewhere.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It was cool.
Sweet.
What else?
Anything else?
Trying to think.
Like we just got a bunch of good gold stuff here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. When you turn
Here
it,
too.
it's running off.
Okay.
All right. Are we wrapped? Or is that a wrap?
So I
Okay.
think I'm ready.
Stop.
Do you need